Hey all, it's David Ducker coming back at you today, joined by Joshua Pullman, the MVP of the Kitchener RPG scene, the shining star of the All-Star Squadron. And we're going to do his player profile video right now. How you doing today, Josh?
I'm doing all right, Dave.
Excellent. So let's start out by talking about your history in RPGs, your own personal history. So when did you start playing RPGs? What was your first experience like?
Well, I first wanted to play when I started reading the Forgotten Realms books in all of their past ancient glory. And I didn't even know D&D existed or anything like that. And I'm just like, this would be amazing if it was a game. Fast forward in a couple of years, high school starts, I start DMing for my group. And basically, I'm stuck as the permanent DM for the duration of high school. But it's fun. We can't get together too often, so we play every couple months for 24 or 48 hours. And that was really my beginning in D&D. Past that, things kind of picked up out of high school. Started working, met Dave. Started running a regular game. Dave started DMing, and the rest is sort of history.
Excellent. So was your first experience as a GM? Were you a player first?
My first experience was as a GM, actually.
Big shoes to fill.
Well, given the audience, not really. It was pretty simple, run through an adventure, bit of a dungeon, kobolds, of course, rats, all of the stereotypes in one little adventure. But people had fun. That's the important thing, is that people enjoyed themselves. And I got a lot of compliments for it, even though looking back, I realized, well, it wasn't that pretty a DMing at all.
Who is when they start?
Well, no one. Really, no one. It's all about practice and skill and learning how to tell stories.
Exactly.
It's something I'm still learning today.
Excellent. So when was the first time that you were a player then?
Shortly after that, a friend of mine ran a game for me, and it actually taught me an enormous amount about what not to do as a DM.
This is what not to do.
Well, here, let me go on in a bit of detail here. Okay,
Sure.
First session, I roll a monk, half-elf monk, and
So this was your first player character?
First player character. We're playing 3.0, and I roll up a monk, and 16s in almost every stat. It was and 3d6 down the line. It was pretty fantastic for a monk.
Oh.
But we started adventuring, and it was basically the DM had his DMPC. This was the first time we played. It is DMPC.
The DMPC.
He was this fighter rogue with a double sword.
The Darth Maul special.
Oh yeah, Darth Maul special. Real awful.
Yeah.
And he ends up offing that DMPC because he doesn't like using the double sword. So the clone comes in later.
The clone
with two scimitars, but basically the same character with a different name.
Nice.
And we're basically chased around Scooby-Doo style by this Yuan-Ti abomination, which we found in this abandoned village for some reason, or in the catacombs beneath the village. No explanation, no nothing.
It just lives there.
Yuan-Ti. And I'm like, this sucks. I'm going to stop and fight it. And, I'm a first level monk.
Yeah.
I've got my 9 HP. And I'm feeling pretty plucky. I've got twice the HP of a average commoner or whatever. Maybe. So I go, I roll my attack. I miss. Okay. And then he says,
the last attack you'll ever get.
Re-roll your character. And, but you didn't attack. Well, he would kill you no matter what. So you have to re-roll. Oh.
What if he rolled that critical one?
Well.
What if? He could have missed, though.
I did sort of insist. And then he did roll it. And then he did kill my character.
He rolled a 2. He came up, a 2! You're dead! Ha roll a new character.
That was pretty much the end of the session, though.
Yeah.
My character dying. So, next session, he wants us to roll new characters, new campaign, sort of. I roll a wizard. It's all organic. He wants us all to roll organically. So I rolled this elven wizard who lives in this little town,
Mm-hmm.
and it's this town of like 50 or 100 people, ancient elven wizard, and what happens? But I roll a 12 intelligence and 18 charisma, so I have this really, really gregarious elven wizard, and who's been living in this town since it was pretty much started. That was my backstory. First level.
Maybe we should do this as like a GM horror story, and we'll stick this out because I want to get more background on you. Just a smorgasbord.
Fair enough. I just felt that it was necessary to. Anyway, long story short, I'll kind of circumvent some of this. Yeah. So it was the first time I was killed by another player. I got
PvP.
I got PvP'd. I did not actually cast a single spell that entire session.
I haven't yet done a video on PvP, so we could do a whole video on that too.
We could quite easily
because I've engaged in a tremendous amount of PvP myself.
Yeah, I've had a lot of PvP engaged against me.
That's true.
An enormous amount. I can't actually remember if I've ever actually attacked another player though. I really try to avoid it. It's terrible business. Because I feel that most role-playing games really ought to be about the teamwork and the basically a group enterprise to accomplish whatever your goal may be.
Okay, so we'll do a PvP video and a horror story as well.
That sounds good. I've got enough horror stories.
Excellent.
Oh my god. Okay.
So that's your first character. What about your first campaign that you ran? What was it like? You said it was kind of like a module.
No, it wasn't actually at all a module. It was completely off the top of my head. I had them all roll up characters. I wanted to be serious though.
You took too much off the top.
Thanks, Dave. Shaved a little too close there. First campaign I ever ran. And I really wanted it to be great because I've seen what core DMing was. There was a bit of a sample on that a few minutes ago. Yeah. So I asked for backstories. I'm like, hey, give me just a paragraph describing your character. And the best backstory I got out of all of them was a guy who said, I woke up in a ditch next to somebody who was dead, wearing a bunch of Palorite clothing and whatever. So I took all this stuff, and now I'm a cleric of Palor. That was the best I got.
Nice.
Because none of the others actually had anything.
Yeah, it's not very good, but it's something.
No. But you know what? I always find that you can turn whatever piss you're given into lemonade if you believe hard enough. And I tried.
Power of faith.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Power of faith. So, it actually ran for about a few weeks. It was certainly not a successful campaign, but it was enjoyable. I had fun running it. They encountered all sorts of stuff. They actually traveled across this very generic land, which wasn't explained a lot, but it was, for the most part, it was pretty much an introductory campaign for everyone. It was the first real campaign the group had ever had.
Excellent.
And so they encountered orcs, naturally. Of course, the big encounter I had, they actually ignored, because it was this big cathedral, and they actually succeed on their perception, like, oh, well, I poked my head in. Oh, there's a circle of bare-chested orcs with great swords standing around a cauldron with a shaman chanting in the center. I closed the door.
Yeah, time to go. that doesn't sound like a scene where I get to live at the end.
Yeah, and they immediately left. Yeah. And this was actually the first dungeon I had built up and really populated.
Yeah.
And they ignored it. And
That's a shame.
And they ignored every other cathedral I popped in their place.
We ain't going to no cathedral, son, because it's all probably the same cathedral, just moved, just teleported.
maybe a little. But they were pretty wise to the meta shenanigans. Yeah. Like, oh, orcs, huh? Well, I know they get so many strength bonuses. I'm gonna ignore that.
Yeah. Okay, so that was your first player, your first campaign.
Yeah, a little rough.
So how would you describe your style? Like, what do you like to see in a game? Let's do that. What do you like to see in a game?
I like to see people invested in their characters.
Yeah.
Who care somewhat about the world around them, or at the very least, if they don't care, it's not just the sort of sociopathic tendency some players have to be like, adventure and gold! And, which, there's games for that. And that can be a lot of fun.
That's called video games.
There's games.
I love video games.
There's games where that can be a lot of fun, but everyone has to be on board. I'm actually playing in a game right now where we're all kobolds in the world's largest dungeon, and that's basically sums it up.
It's run by Mike Chartrand. The human rat is running that video. I didn't name him that.
Who named him that?
That's right. Guess.
Rick.
Rick would never do something like it. Big Daddy Rick is the sweetest soul. Just because you hate Rick, it's no reason to besmirch and slander.
Everybody
Big
Rick
Daddy
has ever played with hates Rick.
Stop doing. No. You're gonna hurt his feelings.
I'm sorry, Rick. I know you'll be watching this.
He's gonna play that on loop now. You stop this, Josh. No, it was James, the indomitable snowman.
Oh dear.
Gave Mike that nickname. But okay, so that's what you like to see is investment, is caring.
I like to see investment, but I mean that's more from the role playing side of things, because ultimately, if you have people invested in their character, they're not going to role play poorly. At the very least, they won't be apathetic. They'll try, and that is worth a great deal in any sort of role playing game. Now, from a mechanical standpoint, I like seeing a mix of role playing and mechanics. I like people being able to hold their own in combat. But I also like to be able to sit down at the campfire at the end of the session and just shoot the shit. Because part of it, I mean, and I've played with people who make this fantastic backstory, but it's a cold, dark loner, so they actually never discuss that backstory with anyone.
Yeah, the lone wolf player. I've done a vid on that. Inspired by Mike Chartrand.
I was going to say James, but...
James? James is like the lone wolf done well, and Mike is like the lone wolf done poorly. And even when the lone wolf is done well, there's still problems, because it's a team sport.
It ultimately is, unless you, I don't know, there's some means of that having an interaction with the rest of the group.
Yeah, it's very tough.
Oh, what is the name of the system? Not Black Sun, but...
White Wolf.
No. Basically, it's
a lot of coiteries that are nothing but lone wolves.
You have the Bruja, yeah. You have the hackers basically assisting Shadowrun. That's the one.
Shadowrun.
You have the hackers assisting the people as they do the run in a different sort of time frame, but they're still clearing objectives and goals and protecting that group. They're still part of it, even though they're not physically there. Mm-hmm. So that's a way of having a character on his own, but still contributing to the whole.
Yeah.
Which I think is very important, because if you have a character whose entire purpose is to go off on his own and have his own adventures, then he should have his own campaign and leave the rest of the group alone, because he's taking time away from 3 or 4 other people.
Yeah. Now those hackers in Shadowrun, that's like mechanical lone wolf. Now you could still be actually engaged emotionally. Usually the biggest problems are with people who are emotionally, they're lone wolves. Even if they're, it could be a tag team style fighter, but emotionally, if he's a lone wolf, he's still going to cause problems.
Well, that comes back to the investment in the character and the setting and the NPCs and so on. I mean, if you just have a person who does not care about the game, everybody's going to realize it. Yeah. It's really hard to fake having fun or role playing at all if you just don't give a damn. If you're just pure apathy on the subject, what are you going to do? You should play something else. Go play a video game or a different group or something that catches your imagination. Yeah. Because that sucks energy out of everyone.
Yeah, it does.
At least I find that. I don't want to speak for anyone else, but if we have a person at the group, and this happened recently in a Rogue Trader session, we had our Explorador.
We might have to do another horror story.
Oh no,
lots of horror stories.
But basically, he's very important to the overall cohesion of the group because he takes care of the ship. He's the tech guy.
You talking about Mike Chartrand again?
Yes.
And this is why I don't play with Mike Chartrand anymore.
But he was. He seemed really detached.
Yeah.
He'd be playing on his phone and not really paying attention. Didn't really know the mechanics that well. No. When he did get into it, when he really got into it, it was a lot of fun, actually, and I enjoyed playing with him.
That's true.
But he just seemed very apathetic for the majority of it. In some sessions, he wouldn't say anything. He wouldn't do anything.
No.
At all, which was a little disappointing, and I think it did contribute to our DM's burnout, because he just has a player who's like,
I'm sure it did.
I cannot be bothered to give a single fuck about what you're saying right now. Am I allowed to swear?
Yes. James asked the same question,
Okay.
and I said, of course, James, you wouldn't say anything inappropriate. And he went on this disgusting diatribe of verbal diarrhea, and I was just like, oh!
You had to get it out.
Very upsetting. It was far more obscene than just some profanity.
Okay.
So look forward to that video. There will be no disclaimer at the front. I'm just gonna throw that right in there with the rest of them. And for all you kids watching, stop right now. Just get out of here. Just go play Pokemon.
Anyway. What were we? Actually,
so that's what you like to see in a game.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So what do you feel you bring into the game? Your skill set. What are you strongest at? What do you enjoy?
Do you know what I enjoy the most? I enjoy being the big, burly muscle of the group. You know what role I always get every time now? I get to be the face.
Yeah.
I get to do all the talking, because apparently I'm pretty not bad at it.
He's really good at it.
And I just want to play like a half-orc with a big battle axe and kill shit. And not necessarily just kill shit. I'm going to roleplay the ever-loving shit out of that. I'm really going to play that up, maybe take the Noble Savage bent, or maybe he's actually just a city orc who wants to get back to his roots, But anyway, so apparently I'm pretty not bad at.
You like to bring the barbarian fury.
Yeah, I do. I think that's a lot of fun.
Yes.
But as I said, I get shunted into this particular role, kind of like somebody gets shunted into the role of the cleric or this or that. It's kind of why I like playing at Dave's table right now, because he has a lot of people who are sort of open to being the face of the group.
That's why we're the all-star squadron.
And it is a lot of fun. So I can play a character in kind of the background, supporting the group, and not really have to speak to too many NPCs, which isn't a big issue. But for the last several campaigns I've played, and I've been the face, so it's a nice break.
Actually, I did a video called Player Burnout, and I mentioned you. You were the star of that video.
Oh, no.
Because of this, having bad players leaning on you, and it's too much weight to handle.
Well, part of it was intentionally antagonistic players as well. That contributed a great deal to that burnout. But it was also basically being the only person to actually talk with NPCs, sometimes for sessions at a time, and negotiate this and that and the other thing. It was a very high politicking game, so I'm not surprised. I can roll dice.
Anybody can roll dice.
Much as you want.
Anybody can roll dice. You need a human being to actually get in and role play, though.
Yeah.
So there's nothing but human beings at my table, Dune style, no humanoids involved. I get everybody tested with the Gamja bar before I even let them sit down. Son, unbearable pain. That's what my player interviews are like. So anything else you wanted to add? This is the video to introduce you to everybody. If they want to know who's this guy Dave keeps talking about, this is the one to go to.
Keep talking about?
I'm just saying, anything else you want them to know about yourself, or not?
What have you talked about?
Mostly the game. I mean,
Okay.
I do.
Curious about that. What do I need to add, and what do I not need to add?
Well, I'm mostly just talking about like so that happens in the game. So because I do the Return of the Runefangs recaps. So they've heard of
Donnie Orr.
Donnie Orr, yeah. So they would be somewhat familiar with that, and then I'll mention you as an example in other videos, like the Player Burnout video. But I don't think I've said too much about you otherwise. About you, just about what you've done. You can't always judge a man solely from his actions.
Fair enough. I mean, I'm basically the end of it is I'm all for fun,
regardless. All for fun and fun for all.
Regardless of the system, regardless of what is occurring, if everyone at the table is having fun, then the game is being played right. If everyone is laughing and smiling, then that's... what more do you want from a game? I mean, you can have aspirations and goals as for the role-playing, but if everyone's smiling, that's it. You know, regardless of system. I played a 5-year campaign in 4th edition, actually, and it was an enormous amount of fun. Really, it was pretty heavily Houseworld too, but it was an enormous amount of fun, and that's the end goal of anything you do, really, with a role-playing game. You know, kind of stop, period, and no.
Excellent.
That's it.
Yeah, so Josh is definitely more fun-focused than I am. I'm all about elevating RPGs to an art form and telling that beautiful story and learning something about the human condition. Where sometimes Josh just like to roll some dice and kill some monsters and get his power game on. And there's nothing wrong with that. That's his perspective. So we'll do some tag team videos, and instead of seeing me with the art of RPGs, you can have somebody on your side, the heel commentator, coming in and talking about why power gaming is a good thing, or can be a good thing if it's done right.
It should be noted, I've never made a power game character that didn't have a good backstory.
That's right. He's the best of both worlds, just like Miley Cyrus. We got the Miley Cyrus RPGs right here. Twerking is extra though. But that's our intro to Josh Pullman. We're gonna come back with some more tag team videos. And until then, everybody have a good day out in YouTube land. Miley Cyrus.